Anna, it's a pleasure to welcome you.
Yeah, great. Welcome to Berkeley.
Thank you. Thank you. So we heard about you, I think, going back 2008, 2009, when you did the research. I think Vivek was part of the research with you on immigrants' influence in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. And what we learned was that immigrants are disproportionately represented in the entrepreneurs. They're much more entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I guess so. So the number, I think, if I'm not wrong, was 52% of engineers in the Valley were of foreign-born.
Yes.
Out of that, I think a significant number were Indians who were also entrepreneurs.
Yes, I think the two largest groups are Indians and Chinese.
That's right. But moving forward, obviously Vivek has done his own research and continues to evolve. I wanted to ask you that now that you are focusing on how to prepare and keep the workforce ready for the next technological challenges, and which is a big deal because I think it's so rapid that if you're not up to it in the next 2 years, then you're obsolete.
You just fall behind, right? Well, one of the things after I finished my research, I really I was asked to run a new school, and it used to be the School of Library and Information Science, but now it's meant to adapt to an era of internet. Sort of the internet-led information sources, which is really at the intersection of technology and society. If you think about how people learn things now, they learn them online through social media, whatnot. And over the past 15 years, I've been growing this school of information, and one of the things that I observe is that a lot of the missteps that we see in technology today among companies are happening because we've trained engineers very narrowly. Computer scientists, at least at Berkeley, they're very, very structured education where their schedules are so full that they barely have time to do anything except the core courses. It's a very competitive environment, and I think in US universities that's true. And we realize that we need people who understand the technology but also understand the social world, or have ethics, have training and understand privacy, understand issues around surveillance and security, that there's a broader education that needs to happen if we want to have, use technology to build the kind of world that we want. We need people to be thoughtful and able to talk across the different parts of the company, whether it's business or finance or technology or policy.
When you look at STEM, and we've all been talking about STEM for the last 7-8 years, and now that you have such a huge influx of Indians and Chinese, and their kids are growing up going to schools here, so talk about science and math, you go to any good school, top 10, at least 8 of those are immigrants, or at least foreign, the parents are foreign born. So if the focus of immigrants have always been STEM, and American seems to lag behind by a huge margin in STEM, where is America's competitive edge?
Well, I think at a place like Berkeley, I wouldn't say we lag behind in STEM. I think we lag behind in the terms and the numbers of people. But I guess what I would say is we need a broader kind of STEM. And I think this applies to the people that are educated in the US and those that come from India and from China and other parts of the world, is that it's such a narrow training that you don't have the breadth to ask the big questions. If you look at what's happened with Facebook, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was 26 when he started that company, and he's just grown it into a juggernaut, which is full of white male engineers, largely, probably a lot of immigrants too, but who are educated in this very narrow way. And so nobody really thought, as they were rolling this out, well, what are the implications for people's, issues about human behavior on social media, about how people, will spread fake news, who might become trolls, all of those things that are now poisoning the internet. I think we need people who are more broadly educated.
So that's a good point. My kids were born and raised here. They go to schools here. And I always tried hard to let them assimilate to the culture. I never focused on STEM because I was personally against STEM myself growing up. So I rebelled against my parents. One of the few people who didn't go to.
You escaped.
So I escaped. I came here. But I think, if you're given the opportunity now, anybody would love to come to this country. And anybody would do anything to come to Silicon Valley, right? Because it's still the world's best place for innovation and entrepreneurship. And besides that, like you said, the STEAM has come in instead of STEM.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
E has become
that's
very
true.
important
Yeah,
now in
yeah.
STEM. So I'm trying to see, you know, and Berkeley is an ideal place for
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
wouldn't have asked this in any other
Yeah,
private
yeah,
university.
yeah.
Where do you think, again, I'm repeating the question, America's edge comes from?
I think, well, it's a fascinating perspective that you're giving because, so my father was an engineer too, and I think he was a child of immigrants and he was forced to do it. And my siblings and myself did not do engineering. So I would say for elite Americans, up until very recently, we didn't. Engineering was seen as kind of grunge work. And now the table has shifted, and we're seeing a lot of the immigrants sort of move in and take over. And I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great to have immigrants filling those roles. Even if they go back home, they stay in touch. You know, so I feel like if we educate good engineers, that will be helpful. But I do think that we don't want to neglect the humanities and the social sciences, sure, and the whole world that is being reshaped by this technology. I think for the first 50 years of, the Silicon Valley revolution, say all of the 20th century, the second half of the 20th century, it was fine to just push the technology forward, design better, faster chips, and put them into things. But now that we're getting into a world of social media, we're getting into a world where the technology is going to be driving everything we do. With AI, it's going to be machines are going to be making decisions for us. We need people who are humanists, who have read the great books, who have thought about the social world in a broader way. And so that's really where my passion has been lately, is just thinking about how do you give them enough technical skill that they can be, they can be very well respected by the technologists, but they also can have conversations across that boundary and talk and make arguments that are different.
So this question would be asked by anybody if you were to sit there on the stage and give
Yes.
this talk, is what are the 3 big jobs of the future? And have you drawn the list?
That's a great question. What are the 3 big jobs of the future? I certainly think that, in the US, and I'm not sure I can help you with other countries, but if the US is some signal of where things are going, I think education is going to remain one of the hugest jobs, healthcare, and then I think it's going to be technology. I think it's going to be the technologies that transforming all of everything else. So I do think that we need people who are smart technologists, savvy technologists, public-minded technologists. The government, and I'm sure this is true in India too, the public sector is way behind the private sector in adopting technology. So it's going to take a long time to take what's happening in Silicon Valley and diffuse it into the society. I think, and I know that India, in spite of the great optimism in this morning's panels, it's going to take a long time to get to the villages. Sure. And it's going to take a long time to really reach the bottom of the pyramid. So we need people who are really thoughtful about taking that technology and using it for the public good.
So humanities is the central role to blend with technology, to evolve for the next generation.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Yeah.
Great. It's great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Great talking to you too. Yeah.